What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode one of the Berrysentials podcast. In this podcast, technically, we're going to be focusing on the music industry, but mainly the emphasis we put on the EDM community, as well as the news within that community and what's kind of going on. Some of the things that normal, I guess I would say, news outlets won't cover because EDM is such a niche kind of genre, and it doesn't really get the love that I feel it deserves. Being a big EDM fan, I definitely love covering this stuff and love talking about it. So let's just jump right into it. I guess a little bit about me first off would be that I have been huge into EDM since about 2016. I'd say eighth grade for me. So I'm on the younger side for sure, but I'm not new to the game for sure. I first discovered EDM through Ease My Mind, Skrillex. His song was just very influential. I mean, it's probably one of the first songs that the moment I heard it, it moved me. And I had a very strong emotional reaction to that song. And my love for EDM just kind of grew from there. And Skrillex really, I think, took off in my late teens, I guess. Actually, a lot earlier than that. But he just started to kind of become mainstream and big, and that was huge into influencing me towards an EDM like taste and music listening habits. So it was huge for me. But enough about that. I kind of moved on into harder EDM in the more recent years. Specifically, I want to talk about GRiZ. So GRiZ is this producer, EDM artist from Detroit, but he currently lives in Colorado. That's where his like home camp basically is. That's where he does a lot of community events and smaller shows, stuff to kind of just keep people more intimate shows, I would say. And GRiZ earlier this year made a huge announcement and kind of shocked the world a little bit when he said that he would be taking an extended leave from music in October. So, I kind of want to go into that a little bit and talk about it. So, a direct quote from his post was right here. Let's see. In October of this year, I'm going to play my last show for the foreseeable future and will be taking a good amount of time off from the touring and the GRiZ project. Life is really good, and often I make myself too busy to see just where I am and how far this project has come. I'm following my gut instincts for now. I'm not going to put a hard time limit length on the break. So, it kind of leaves some questions. It's a little open-ended. We don't know where he's going to go with this. I personally am of the like the belief that GRiZ is going to still play shows. GRiZ is not saying goodbye. He's saying see you later. He's been a grinder for the past 10 years. He has put his heart and soul into his music and into the culture and really developed into one of the EDM legends that we know and love, to be honest. GRiZ, I think, is in that debate of like the GOAT of EDM. I don't think there's a debate where if you're talking top five artists, I don't think GRiZ gets left off that list personally. But regardless, this hiatus is definitely a sad day for EDM, for sure. I mean, you look at him and the influence he has, that very unique production style with the saxophone instrumentals, and he has incorporated so many different cultures into his music with like the rap culture. He did a track with Wiz Khalifa. He's done stuff with um like his friend, I think it's Christina. Oh man, I'm drawing a blank on her name. But regardless, he does a lot of stuff with different genres. He has that kind of, I think he describes it himself as Motown funk, right? So funk is a very prevalent in GRiZ's music. It's a huge, part of who he is, and I think it has a huge tie to where he's from and his roots. GRiZ is by far my favorite artist and very influential in my own life, and just, it's very sad to see him go. But of course, I can't think of a more deserving person with how hard he's worked, and it seems like he's always bringing the energy to his fans. He's got a great attitude, very positive person, constantly preaching positivity. So he's a great guy, and the EDM community is certainly going to miss him for his extended break, but I really don't think this is the end. So we'll kind of see how it goes, and what happens. But GRiZ, I can't see him leaving for good. But I guess only time will tell. So continuing on, I also want to talk about a new album that's going to be dropping. So San Holo is dropping a new album, and I can't confirm this, but it does seem like the tracks that he's been releasing will be featured on that album. So he has recently collabed with Weathen and Aurora and some other artists that people may know. San Holo has this kind of like melodic mixture. I don't know if it would be considered melodic bass because it's a pretty light um, style. I would say it's definitely very easy listening, and a lot of people I think will appreciate and respect his music if they listen to it. He also is kind of like GRiZ in the way where he incorporates instruments into his sets, and he plays the guitar and he crushes that shit, dude. Like, he is so good. He has a very, again, unique sound. You can hear a San Holo sound and know exactly what it is. One of his famous songs is called just Light, and then he also has We Rise, which is one of the very first songs I ever heard. And yeah, I mean, everybody has heard the songs, I'm sure. They were very popular on TikTok or Vine back in the day, for all the old school people, the OGs who know about Vine. But he's dropping this new album. It's coming up in a couple weeks. It's going to come in, I think, September 15th is when he said he will be dropping this new album. So it's coming up next week. And I'm honestly amped for this. I'm so excited to see what he's got, what he's been working on, because it's been a little while since he's dropped an album. The last album he has was Baby You Okay, which was 2021. And that one also incorporated a lot of more, I want to say, like, it had a sadder vibe. It wasn't necessarily the most happy, uplifting music. It had that kind of like euphoric feeling, which a lot of his music does, but it had the way I interpreted it, a focus on kind of like an angsty feeling, or more so on like the sad side of the emotional spectrum, for sure. He did release a deluxe version of that as well, but there haven't been albums for a while. So I'm very excited to see what he's been working on. It's been 2 years since that last one came out. And I mean, he's been doing some great collaborations. I mentioned he collaborated with Weathen on a song called No Place Is Too Far. That track has been on nonstop for me for the past 2 weeks. I have just absolutely loved that. I can't get enough of it. And also, I mentioned he made a track with Aurora. I believe that one was called Bring Back the Color. Yes, that was. And that one was also very, I mean, all of his music has a euphoric feel. So those tracks, again, like I said, they're two of my favorite right now for sure. So I'm very excited to see what this album is going to entail. I mean, it's going to be amazing. I'm hoping to see those tracks on that album, but again, you can never really tell. So speaking of albums, I also want to cover a quick little topic that has been near and dear. So obviously, starting this podcast, I don't have like any prior topics that I've covered, so I can kind of cover whatever, really. And I want to shout out Rezz's album, It's Not a Phase. Sorry, like I have to double back real quick. It's an EP. It's not an album. But Rezz's EP, It's Not a Phase, was the perfect mix of punk and very, very like small aspects of EDM for some songs, and then a little bit heavier on the others. But Rezz is known for her hypnotic type of music. She has the visuals where it's like spirals is a big thing of hers, or she's huge with the hypnosis type of, I guess, element. A lot of her music has a trance type of vibe, or a hypnotic feel, and she famous, like she did like the Spirals tour, so she has like those hypnotic type of visuals along with her sets as well. But what I really want to talk about is this punk kind of emo phase she went through earlier. So the EP dropped in mid-July, and I mean, you look at the artist on it, and it's very different from her normal stuff. Johnny Goth featured on it. Raven Gray featured. She is buddies with Grabbit, so it was very nice to see her and Grabbits collaborate on their track Signal, which is one of my favorite on the album. And then my personal favorite from that album is Embers, which was a song that Rezz did with Raven Gray, and I mean I can't get enough of that one. That one is amazing. I think that if you run that track back and listen to it yourself, I mean I don't see how you can disagree. It's a great, a very nice emo kind of feeling to it, but it also has that like hypnotic, very like light bass in the background, and it's just it complements each other so well. And Rezz's style is definitely set up for that. But what I really want to talk about this EP in specific is that it's a bit of a genre change for Rezz. You know, Rezz is very EDM heavy up until this point. You know, we have those heavy drops, you know, the big bass. And so a lot of people were expecting these songs to have heavier bass, and it just wasn't happening. You know, the quote drop never came, right? But why I feel it's so important that artists have this ability to genre hop and basically express themselves through whatever medium they feel the need to is because it's great for the community. It's great for them as well as artists because they get to have a new outreach. They get to, you know, their music changes, so they are gonna, you know, find more people, more crowds. And I loved this album or the EP. I keep saying album. I can't tell the difference. I'm gonna be honest with you. The only reason I know the difference is because I googled it fucking 20 minutes ago. But regardless, the EP, it was great. I mean, I'm not super into punk traditionally. I tend to lean more towards the EDM style, but it's fun to hear new things from artists that you don't expect. And like I said, it's great to see artists having fun and fucking around with like what they want to do, doing what they want to do, and not necessarily letting the fans control them, but creating stuff that's more closer to their heart. Because that's when, you know, I feel like as a fan of EDM, being out in the crowd, if the DJ is not having fun and you can tell that it's just, you know, a superficial, fake kind of night, you know, you kind of feel that energy to a certain degree, and it kind of ruins it. So it's just great to see these artists going out and doing things that they want to do. And another one in particular, I kind of want to segue this into talking about Blank, who is also my current like front runner for Artist of the Year, in my opinion. He's been crushing it. He's been growing exponentially as the months go on. He's been doing all kinds of stuff. But Blank is currently sitting on a absolute banger that I have tried so hard to find. Like I found the YouTube clip, but he won't release it. The full song hasn't come out yet. It is a remix of Rezz's song Edge, and it's the Blank flip, and it is amazing. Cannot stress enough how excited I am for him to finally drop this track. He doesn't have a deadline set yet or like an official date for when he's going to release that song, but I know it's coming, and I am so ready because it is amazing. But the reason why I want to include Blank in this conversation is because Blank has also been genre hopping. You listen to his music, and he is not necessarily committing to one genre, which I think is only going to further his career and help him even more. You take a look at his songs like Talk to You, or I guess maybe even Drift is a new one he released. Drift doesn't really have a genre label, in my opinion. I've tried to figure out what I would classify it as, and it's its own thing. It has a very euphoric type of feeling, but it's also, I don't know, it's got very light EDM elements in it, and it's a very fun song to listen to. It's very easy to listen to. It's not, you know, you're not going to be headbanging to that one necessarily, but it's a great feeling, more like a feel-good song, to be honest. And I think that's kind of his goal, it seems, to be pushing genre limits and almost creating a new genre for himself, because he wants to go out and he wants to create something fun and something new. Again, going back to why I think it's great that these artists have the ability to be creative in whatever manner they see fit. It's amazing because when we talk about these performers, we call them artists because it is an art form. And again, with art in general, you should never do anything that isn't isn't true to you. So when you see these artists switching things up and trying new things, it's kind of like seeing their story and seeing their growth. And it's just amazing as a fan to be able to experience this in real time and kind of just watch these stories unfold. Now, Blank, I got very lucky because I was able to travel down to Manchester, Tennessee with my best friend, and we lucked out. I mean, we had a great lineup for the awesome festival, Bonnaroo. We were lucky enough to see GRiZ perform not one but two sets for us there. We got to see a nighttime set where it was more of his heavier EDM stuff, and then we also got to see him perform Chasing the Golden Hour 4 at sunset. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. Gotta be like a bucket list moment there for me. I mean, seeing GRiZ alone was a bucket list thing, but now, I mean, you're sitting there literally chasing the golden hour, and he's ripping on the saxophone. He's got his friends up there. They're having a great time. It was one of the best shows I've ever been to. I really don't think anything will ever top that as far as how unique it was and how it felt, but that was amazing. And then we also were lucky enough to see Blank. Blank was opening that night. We saw him. It was quite a late time slot for sure, but it was like 3 a.m. I think. Rolled around. We got to see Blank. He was up in a spaceship, kind of like set stage, and it was amazing. I mean, it was so cool. He has been crushing it this year. I think I've seen him 3 times already this year. But Blank is just seems like he's doing everything. He's going everywhere. He's doing everything. He's remixing songs. He remixed Laser Beam by Ray Volpe. That remix is my favorite remix of that song for sure. He crushed it with that one. He's just been kind of on a tear. He also released 2 songs called Deranged and Monster. And those two, again, not necessarily his traditional vibe, I would say. They were more hard style. They had that very aggressive drop, and then they had the big, almost like robotic feel to it. That like monster screaming at you type of feel. So Blank's been doing, in my opinion, everything he can to help grow EDM. And really, you look at it, and I think he will be a top 10 EDM artist in the coming years, for sure. His growth, maybe he needs a little bit more outreach, a little bit more coverage, but he's on the way up for sure. And listening to his music, he has not missed in a while. He has made every track amazing, and I am easy to please, no doubt about it, but he's been killing it. And yeah, I mean, really, I don't think there's much more to be said about Blank other than that. He's on the up and coming. He's doing great. But yeah, I mean, there's so many exciting things going on in the EDM community right now. Just events as well. I mean, Shaq, DJ Diesel, Shaq, he's been killing it. He had Shaq's Bass All Stars earlier this month. We have some really great festivals coming up, such as Lost Lands, which Excision's putting on, and Blank will be there performing his, I believe it's called Eon set, or Eon Mode, which is a new project he's been working on. Very excited to see what that's gonna look like. And there's been a lot going on. I also noticed there were some new festival lineups that dropped that will be around New Year's Eve. So many things are happening. It's hard to keep track of it all, and it's hard to cover it all and know what you even care enough to listen to. So it's hard to figure it out. But with so much media being released, I feel like it's just nice to kind of talk about my little niche or whatever, and just kind of cover what's important to me. And that's kind of the reason why I'm doing this podcast and why I want to talk about these things, because I love this stuff. I really do. I'm very passionate about it, and I think that it's hard to know where to look for some of these songs. I mean, there's apps that will tell you similar artists or similar songs, but it's not the same. Someone with music taste who can make recommendations, or who really has an emotional feeling as compared to some program written up just to notice a similarity in, I don't know, the hi-hats or bass line, whatever. Stuff like that. But I do want to end this episode with 2 quick things. I want to do 2 shout outs, one for an artist and one for a song that I've been loving lately. So I'm going to do this every episode for every week that I release the show. That's kind of the goal. Future episodes, I hope to go a little bit longer and have a little bit more to talk about, but I didn't want to be too long-winded on the first one. I'm still working on how everything's set up, and also I kind of just trying to get some experience in the podcast booth. Trying to get it's not well, it's not a booth. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm sitting in a chair right now in my room holding my mic because I can't figure out the setup. But whatever, fuck that. Scratch that shit. Don't worry about it. Shout outs. All right, so Alley Cat dropped this song called Back to Life in early August. Recommend it. Go check it out. She's also playing a festival, I noticed. So she's starting to get up there. She's getting some recognition for her skill and her ability to produce tracks. So definitely go give that one a listen. You know, let me know what you think. Obviously, I don't think I'll steer you wrong with that one. And then another song that I want to throw down is Burning by Seth Hills and Levix. And this is more of a house beat, but if you've listened to some Two Friends sets, they've been incorporating this one in as well. So it's really taken off. But yeah, those are the two that I would recommend. So go check out Alley Cat as an artist, check out her music, and then also Burning by Seth Hills and Levix. Those are my recommendations for the week. And with that being said, I mean, this wraps up episode 1. I just try to keep it short and sweet and not be too long-winded on you guys. But again, with everything, it's going to take some time to get it dialed in. So I appreciate you for listening, and I really hope you guys have a great week.